This is computer science operating system class. If you are taking the psychology, so of you. 220. So, welcome back to UB. Any new student? New? So it's the first semester. Congratulations, admit to UB, and hope your life in US is wonderful. My name is Jung-Gyu Lee. I'm the professor of computer science department, computer science and engineering department, but mostly I'm teaching computer science subject, including operating system, database, and the data-related topic. NoSQL database, I'm teaching another class tomorrow evening, and big data and data mining, and sometimes the multimedia database and something database-related stuff I'm teaching. So if you are interested in the data-related topic, so always welcome to discuss and taking my class. And actually, this is one of the class that I didn't major in my PhD and so on, but once one of the professors who taught this class left to California actually several years ago, I took over this class. Then I have been teaching this class last several years. So while I'm teaching the operating system, I really like the psychology.
Yeah.
So I'm the 220.
So anyway, thank you.
Second floor. So hope you enjoyed this class throughout the semester. For the new coming student, I think the curriculum maybe any undergraduate student. I think that we have 2 of them. Yes.
2 more.
Yeah, 2 more.
We just aren't.
Okay. So unfortunately, due to the last enrollment of the undergraduate student, so this is a cross-listed class. Good news, you are going to learn the more. Bad news, a little bit tough. But for regarding to the grading, I'm going to consider separate pool. So you don't have to worry about if, for example, you got the less mark on the midterm or final, but I will apply the different curve for the undergraduate student. But I know the majority is the graduate student, but based on my experience, most of the undergraduate students who took this class or the other classes, they sometimes much better than the graduate student. That means the graduate student should work hard to overcome the undergraduate student. That doesn't mean I'm going to excuse, okay? Please try to follow this class. So first, I'd like to give a little bit more information about this class. So as I introduced, my name is Jung-Gyu Lee. So my office is a little bit weird. So I'm the only one who is isolated from other engineering faculty. So I'm in the South Shore, which will be actually the takedown next summer. The new president will demolish the South Shore and North Shore soon. Then we'll make the parking lot. So I need to move to another building. But anyway, right now I'm in the South Shore. It's facing to the health and science. So partially ocean view. So always welcome. So I also have the research lab. It's called the Multimedia Information Group. So next to my office. So if you are interested in the multimedia related research or the project, always welcome to discuss and do the project. So that is the South Shore 107. the bad news is always locked. So in case locked, so you can push the button. If somebody inside the building, either me or the faculty member will open the door. Otherwise, if you really want to use the facility inside the South Shore without permission, you need to go to the security office. Otherwise, if you want to access periodically or regularly, you can ask me, then I'm going to submit the paper to get permission for you guys. So then my office hour is mostly the Tuesday afternoon. I will be available at my office, but if you want to make an appointment, always welcome. You can email me. The best way is canvas the message. So regarding to this class, because I have every day more than 100 email, as you expect, there's half of them are the spam mail. So from time to time, I just delete first. So accidentally will be deleted your mail. So please use the canvas the message. Then it can be sorted by the subject, so I can easily recognize. Usually I'm checking the canvas message every an hour, but may reply within the 12 hours mostly. So, but if you do not receive my reply through the canvas message, that means that I'm considering. Okay, so until I get the permission or something other decision, I do not reply right away. Sometimes, especially for serious things. So otherwise, you will get the response quickly through the canvas message. If you are not familiar with the canvas, especially for the new student, please try to get familiar with the canvas. That is our not only just online tool, but it's an instruction tool at UB. So, and that's it. Then we have the GA, graduate assistant, the GIDO.
My name is Gido. I'm GA during this semester. If you have any questions, just let me know through the email.
So this is my 13 years of teaching at UB. So I'm getting lazy. So, for example, if you have a question about the specific code, when you get something problem, so I mostly forgot. So he is much better than me for practical assistance. So please contact him if you have any problem while you are doing the project. Or I'm going to introduce our project environment, which is the Google Cloud Computing. So since the last 4 semester, I'm using the cloud computing environment for our exercise lab as well as the demonstration and so on. So he is much better than me to have in case you have problems. So please, I think the office hour is not up to date, so I'm going to update. Also, you can send a canvas message to Gido anytime when you have problem or other question. Okay, then the primary material operating system is this textbook. So textbook is the first one. So some of the students rely on only the PowerPoint file I'm going to use throughout the semester. So, but the PowerPoint PPT file is just a supplementary. So to have my lecture, okay? It's not condensed. It's not fully explained all the subject and the topic that we are going to discuss throughout the semester. Instead, that's a summarization. So please reading the textbook is before the class or after the class. Even every semester, every time when I'm teaching any subject regarding to the operating system, I'm reading this one also. And I can get the new idea or the instructional method and so on. So this is including the exam, the midterm and final exam. So please use this one. You can find the 10th edition. So, but they do not release the 10th edition. They release the initial version of the 10th edition, but I'm going to this semester. I decide to use the 9th edition. It's not much changed, but some new concepts such as the virtual machine and cloud computing and such a thing are included. But based on our curriculum, it's not required. So if you want to use the 10th edition, it's fine, but my lecture will be based on the 9th edition. I cannot say you can get the for example, international edition or the PDF file from the internet. That's not the legal, but the story up to you, okay? But I know it's expensive. Usually most of the textbook is expensive. But believe me, I still keep the old edition of this one, the 5th and 6th edition. So mostly whenever you see the dinosaurs, so it's the old version of this. I don't know why the professor, the Shivaratran, so he is the professor in the Yale University, so he usually used the dinosaur for the cover page of his textbook. But it's a really good idea to have such a textbook for your future, okay? It will be, it's different from the reading the internet article or HTML file. So I strongly suggest to keep at least one textbook for each subject, like the database and the algorithm. And the program language is slightly different. It's a kind of trend. So who knows, next year the primary program language is not the C# or the Python. It will be new program language. But the core part of such a subject will not be changing a lot. For Newman architecture will be used I think the next 100 years. So please rely on the textbook rather than the other material. So this is a textbook. It's a 9th edition. So 8th edition is different. So at least the 9th edition I suggest. Then don't pay attention too much to this one. This, the grading policy. So it will be changing at the end of the semester based on your overall performance. So we will have sometimes many quiz, or sometimes the and the reading assignment and so on, depending on your overall performance. So the grading policy will be changing. Also, grade distribution will be changing. So if I apply strictly this grade distribution, half of the student will grade this class. So usually I focus on the B or B plus around the 70. So, but this one B is 89 to 75. So don't pay attention too much to this grading policy. Also, when you see the grade of the Canvas, we are going to use the Canvas for the classroom, the tool. So you need to submit your assignment or quiz, project, everything to the Canvas. Canvas sometimes automatically generate the weighted score. So that's not my score. Okay, so I do not give the details of the weight of each submission. Sometimes the simple quiz is 100. Then the project, the GA used 10 point, the maximum. They are actually different weight, but Canvas, they use the default. Like the 100 is the 1, and the 10 is also 1. So it's not the adjusted grade. So ignore any the weighted tutor generated by the Canvas. So I'm going to use the weight at the end of the semester. So because some of the students at the end of the semester complain. So I got the 90, so I should be the 8. But that's based on the automatically calculate the score. So I'm going to check the attendance from time to time, not every class. So today, I'm going to call your name, so to be familiar. But this will not be great, just know your name. So it's getting hard to read. Fatia Ajalan, Fatia, Nanya. This is operating system class. The Vinitra Babu. Okay. You have taken my class before, right? Database? Yes. Okay. So Gauri Shankar Reddy, Bogla, and Davar Barsara. Okay. So Fran Charles and Nathan near the
struggle, I know.
Imaniglido.
It's a struggle, I know.
Okay.
It's hard.
That's okay. Profile ready? Irregular. So Daniel, Fernandez, Favela is not yet. Don't worry. So this is just the checking your name and relative rate. Naren.
Yeah.
The Landau. Okay. Shiba. I heard that Shiba is one of the famous god names, right? So the son's friend, the best friend, his name is Shiba. He always bragging. His name is the most famous. Famous or greatest? God of God, kind of. So, Gunasai, Karapati. Sai Pranit, okay. Manisha, Matthew, and Salah, Meloki, Mustafa Merchant, okay. Sajad, Sohail Mohammed, okay. And Arlim, Murji, okay. Dihikshit, Chaudhary Nalama, Sri Hari Priya, Sai Vishak, the Sembanji, Siddharth, Sarva, the Nishi Subhash Suman, okay. Srikant, Totam, Joseph, Wakwe, Sai Shruti Guadi, Cham Jan, Leonida Jeja. Okay, anyone? His name is not called. It will be updated. You registered probably this morning or 93. Okay. So I made the list yesterday. Okay, so then from time to time I will check your. So this method is much better. So last few years we had actually overflow of the enrollment. So sometimes I had 70 students in the classroom. So it doesn't make sense to control or teach the 70 students at one time. Usually there is a 20 to 25 is good. So we have the less than 30 students this semester, which means I can do whatever I want. So I don't have to rely on curriculum. Sometimes I can do other activity. But when I had more than 40 students, I cannot do any other thing. It's just regular. It's like not like the classroom, so really. But this, I like the 20 to 30 students. If less than 20, sometimes it's too small to do that activity. But this semester will be much better. Okay. Then this is tentative schedule. Maybe changes based on the overall sometimes weather. I don't think that usually first semester we do not have the severe weather, but who knows. So one thing, next week, Monday, is a Labor Day, so we do not have a class. I know that some of the students are international students and just the first year. So spring, we have the Martin Luther King Day, the beginning of the semester, so we do not have a class. The campus will be closed. And that's the only one, except the spring. And then first semester, Labor Day. Then we have the Thanksgiving. This time, the Thanksgiving probably, when is it? I think the 28th. Is it the Thanksgiving? I do this one, 21st. So we do not have class 21st. So I think that's a mistake. Okay, but we do not have any break the first semester. Usually, if spring semester has a spring break, which I like, but this is the Thanksgiving at the end of. So when you realize it's approaching the Thanksgiving, which means it's the end of the semester. Really, it's quickly gone. So please do the whatever you want for the class activity before Thanksgiving, and you can enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday. Okay, you can see the some of the board, the exercise lab. So since last, as I mentioned briefly, last semester, we had a computer lab in the engineering building, where most of the students have the laptop nowadays. So your laptop is much better than the computer, personally. And also, it's not easy to catch up the improvement of the hardware, the specification. And sometimes, if you want to use something virtual machine, so you need 8 gig, the minimum, the memory. So, but mine is just 8 gig total. So, but I cannot buy the processor every time the high-end computer facility. To overcome such a situation, last semester I decided to use the cloud computing. So cloud computing, we will discuss more throughout the semester, but the hardware is not here, it's in the somewhere, outside. So then it can be island, it can be the North Pole, it can be South Pole. Recently, the nearby Texas, there's another Google, the data center is open. So and using the high bandwidth, the internet. You know, the Google also has the cable, the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, their own. So it's almost real time, really. So, but anyway, using the weekend, also thanks to the GCP Google Cloud Computing, they provide the free coupon for the student. Each student will get the 50 bucks. Oh, by the way, cloud computing is not free, so you need to pay. Just like when you are watching the movie or the TV, you need to pay. There's no except over the antenna, so you need to pay for the cable and the satellite. Just like that, you need to pay for using your cloud computing resource. So, but most of the cloud computing, the company, they provide free or the less expensive course for the academia, educational purpose. So we got the $50 the coupon for your exercise lab. So we will have the first exercise lab next week. So at the time you will activate such a coupon, so you are able to use any service of the provided by the Google using that coupon. So GA will explain more details. Then we have the two major company of such a cloud computing provider. One is the Google, another one is the Amazon. AWS is the leading company. Then the Google follow. So I have used the AWS one time in the classroom, but the first problem is the credit card. Most of the students are a little bit scared to put the credit card. It's just like the other Amazon service, even though you do not use just a free trial, but you need to put the credit card number. I have been charged by the AWS. After semester, I forgot. Then just virtual machine is running. So every month, the 30-something dollars are automatically charged for the semester. So almost $100, but which I didn't realize because it's just 30, so I didn't pay attention to it, but later. So it may be happen to other students, the student a little bit scared, but the Google, the only reason I select the Google GCP is without credit card, you are able to. Using the only coupon, you are able to. Otherwise, you can use the $300 free trial, but at the time you need to put the credit card number, but you are able to use the $300. $300 is mostly enough for the practice and exercise throughout a year. Okay, so $50 is pretty much enough only for this class, the exercise lab. So we are going to create the virtual machine based on the Debian operating system, which is based on the Linux. Then you will practice. Because you are very familiar with, much better than me, Windows-based computing environment. So like even including the programming, like the .NET and such a C# Visual Studio and fancy nice the graphical user interface. However, when you graduate, when you get a job, so most of the company, they don't, many of the companies, they are using the command line interface or the Linux-based or Unix-based environment. So I'd like to give you guys to be familiar with such the command line interface. So we are going to use only the virtual machine Debian operating system running on the GCP, Google Cloud Platform. Another benefit is it's not only the operating system, but if you are interested in the big data, or if you are interested in the Hadoop, or the NoSQL database, machine learning, deep learning. So all of these, the algorithm and or service are provided by the Google or the AWS. So if you know the very basic API, RESTful API, just one line code to learn the deep learning, like the convolutional neural net or the natural language processing. I have an idea for the app that translate between the English and the Hindi or Chinese. So you don't have to code or you don't have to buy the natural language processing package. Instead, you can just register, then one line code, it will be charged by the number of transactions. So just cheap while you are developing. So it's really fun to use such a Google Cloud computer. So you don't have to buy it will take just a couple of minutes to create the 100 terabyte storage and 100 number of nodes and Hadoop big data system. It's just a couple of minutes to create such a thing. After you test it, you can just make them slip. You don't have to be charged. So that is another benefit. So throughout the semester, we will use such a cloud computing, including your project. So which means, so we are going to do the couple of projects throughout the semester to implement the everything that we are going to learn in this class. So that should be based on the Google computing platform. Okay. And also, if you see the second half of the semester, a little bit changes the schedule because our second project is based on the file system. So you are going to implement our portable file system. Because of that, I switch the order of the lecture. So otherwise, it will be okay. Any questions so far? It's too fast. I'm going to slow down. You do not have any question? I don't like the Microsoft Surface, so I ordered another laptop, but it's not shipped yet. Okay, so let's jump into our main topic. So this is the operating system class. How much? By the way, so for the new student, our department changed the core curriculum of the computer science, which means until the last semester, all students for graduation should take the 5 core courses, including I think the OOP, the programming, and algorithm, database, operating system, and network. Is it network? Yeah, DCC, network class. So, but it's a change. For the new coming student, you are much more flexible. So you can take only one core course. Otherwise, you can, as long as you're satisfied with the number of credit for graduation, you will be okay. I like the flexible curriculum, okay? But that doesn't mean you can ignore the core part, core subject of computer science. So such the 5 subjects, sometimes depending on the trend of the current technology, may change it, but the database and such algorithm and the network and the object-oriented programming. Who knows? Maybe next few years our program language, the concept model will be changed to ABC, the program language. But right now it is true, it's object-oriented based. But even though you require to take only one, the core course, that doesn't mean you can ignore. If you are confident, you are able to take the elective. Otherwise, I strongly suggest to take the the core courses. Because I have seen a lot of the senior or the student who graduate, sometimes they are struggling. They are very good at the programming, but at the time it was the C++ or the C program language, but without the background of the computer science. So to jump into the new program language, or sometimes you will be assigned to the management or administrator, like the database administrator or network administrator. But if you do not have such the fundamental of computer science, it will be very hard to get used or to manage such a task. So please, if you are confident, so you are able to take the deep learning or the data mining, such a classes. But otherwise, I strongly suggest to take such a core course. Why core courses are important? This will not be changed quickly. Okay, it will be kind of basis, the fundamental of for your life. As long as you are around the IT or computer-related job or the computer-related the industry, this should be yours. So one of that is operating system class. So what kind of operating system do you know and have you been using operating system? What kind of operating system? Windows. So when is the first time you use Windows? For me, it's a 1991 or 1990. So 3.1. The Windows was released. Before that, there was a Windows, the operating system. Okay, so Bill Gates actually developed the first graphical user interface, the operating system in his garage, right? So based on what? At the time, the DOS. So DOS is the DOS. It's also operating system. Okay. Then even before that, so I have used in my life, my first computer experience was long back to the 1982. So at the time, I have used, it was called the major computer, personal computer. One is the Apple computer. Believe it or not, at the time there was an Apple computer. Then Steve Jobs, after that, left Apple, then get back, then he actually bounced back. So it's a huge success in the iPhone and whatever. But it was the Apple computer, 8-bit computer system. Then the IBM XT and the AT. I don't know whether you guys heard about IBM XT, IBM the XT and AT. So still confused what is the difference between the XT and AT. One of them, you need to put the floppy disk. I'm not sure whether you have heard about the floppy disk to start your computer because the memory was not big enough, so you need to use the floppy disk external storage to run your operating system. Then, after that, when I get the first job, 95, so at the time, I was assigned to the IT department. Actually, I didn't major in computer science. So my major was, can you guess? It's a teacher. I'd like to be a high school teacher. So my major was math education. So, but problem to be a high school teacher, I should pass the exam. So it's kind of government office. So it's a very good pension and it's a reliable job position. So it's my friend actually studied for 2 or 3 years to pass that exam. But I was in the military service for 2 years. After I got back, I definitely forgot everything. So I didn't have a time to study, so I gave up to be a high school teacher. Then I applied the job. So Even I didn't consider any specific area. I just submitted my resume. But fortunately, so there was a gap year between my military service and back to my senior year. So I have visited my elder sister who still lives in Hawaii. So I have a chance to learn the English. English was the most favorite. No, I still hate the second language. But the problem nowadays, even I forgot sometimes my mother tongue. So vocabulary. So the wife will blame every time. Anyways, language art, I really hate such a thing. But sometimes my mom said it's kind of God punishment because I didn't study the language. So I should teach students in English. So anyway, so when I get a job, I was assigned to the IT department as a database administrator. Did I know anything about the database? No. Actually the boss selected me, pick up, only because my major. So my major is mathematics. So if you are taking took the database class, mostly it's the kind of concept of the database now still. So mathematics. It's based on the math set theory. Like the relation is a group of data. So set is group of element and so on. So he believed me to catch up easily such a concept of the database and so on. So I learned most of the computer science, the experience as from my boss. It's not from textbook. It's just he asked to do something, then I should. And even at the time, there was an internet, but it's not like the night right now. So if I knew at the time, so I can be genius at that. But so it's a 95. So one of my job at the time to install Windows 95. How can you guess how I installed the Windows 95? There is a 60 something the drive. Floppy disk, 3.5 inches, the floppy disk, and it's a 60 number. The total, the 60 floppy disk, and the change it one by one. It took several hours, but mostly it's not successful at one time. So one of the computer it takes a week to install the Windows 95. So there was no CD-ROM style the installation, only this one. Even nowadays we cannot see the CD-ROM, right? But it was a 95. And also at the same time, so I learned several other operating systems. So one of the interesting is OS 390. Have you ever heard about OS 390? So until this era, the 1990, so one of the still is a major company in the IT, but it's not the major company in the hardware. So IBM. Everybody believes IBM is a company who still produces the computer-related stuff. No, IBM gave up any hardware stuff. Like the Lenovo right now, where is it? It's China. Okay, they do not actually they maintain, but they do not develop the CPU. Have you ever heard about recently any IBM related CPU or chip? No. They sell all the part to the other industry. Then one of my friend who was in the Austin, Texas. So you probably have the friend who are around Austin. They mostly work for the semiconductor, which means the IBM also has a big office campus. They develop the IBM chip, power chip, and so on. IBM had, if you see the history of computer science and computer engineering, half of them related to IBM. So they developed the IBM machine and the chip and then operating system. But he designed the CPU, the main chip of the central processing unit. He's the architecture to design such a, I think he focused on one of the main, the hurdle of designing such a chip is maintaining heat, temperature. So main problem of such the high-end computer, the processing unit is the more the computation the chip had, the higher temperature. So it should be cooled down. So think about the data center. Where are they mostly? It's the northern part of the Earth. The reason is that we need to cool down. So to cool down in Texas, it's more energy you need. So they put the data center in the Iceland or around there. Also think about anyone who owned the Bitcoin? No, man. Last semester, a lot. So Bitcoin. But I do not know still whether Bitcoin will be successful or not, but it is true. So we need the strategy or the concept of the currency. Because right now, who owns the currency control? So FRB, like that. But because of that, even 10 years ago, the US economy should be collapsed. But they print more and more the almost unlimited dollar. Then right now it's much better, okay? But nobody sees such money. So, but the Bitcoin may replace, but it has been used for kind of gambling. It is true. But anyway, the Bitcoin is based on blockchain, so and so on. The blockchain is kind of the district, the share, such a data structure. Then we will have the one or two classes to talk about to discuss about the Bitcoin. So at the time, one of the interesting is that everybody should embark, right? To hook up such a embark, we need to compensate. Otherwise, I don't use my computer research. So because of that, if you run such an algorithm more and more, you will get the higher chance to get the reward. So that is that's called the mining. Okay. To do that, you need to solve the problem fast and fast. That is the computation that creates a lot of temperature. So if you see the professional miner who own such a computer stuff, it's like open space and a lot of computing unit are there. Then they run fast. They cannot run the AC because it's not even you cannot make enough money. So they run the fan and so on. The main problem is such a temperature, heat control. So he was expertise. Then IBM decide to close their business, such a hardware part. Then he was assigned to the civil engineering. Then he worked for the designing the power grid in Manhattan. Because it's almost the same concept to designing the electric power for the city design. He shows me zooming of the main chip. That's quite similar as the map of the Manhattan, really. And I do not know exactly what's going on inside, but he said they are going to use the AI to balance such a power to provide. Even the power outage, they do not know what is the problem. But if we apply such an AI machine learning, then he said it's almost the same as what he had done. So just like the IBM actually gave up recently such a hardware. Before that, one of the main part of the IBM hardware was the mainframe. Have you ever heard about the mainframe? It's a centralized server, but it has been used for something virtualization. It's very expensive and very reliable, very secure. So most of the financial company, they use the mainframe for the IT infrastructure. Even I worked for one of bank in Korea. I'm from Korea, so then that company also used such an IBM mainframe. Their operating system is OS/390. Then when I learned the OS/390, it's a centralized server, the mainframe. I should connect the mainframe through the dummy terminal, CRT monitor, and directly connect to this one. It's not network. It's a dummy terminal, and the dummy, the mouse, and what is the keyboard, and so on, and directly connect to here, and submit the job, and the operator run the code, and output will be printed, and get back to me, and so on. That is the OS 390, and at the time. Okay? In 2000, what happened around the 2000? Year 2000, Y2K. Have you ever heard about the Y2K? No? It's an old story. So, this is a typical the date format. Okay? So today is August 26th, and this is the 18. What 1918. So until the 1999, so we have used the 2 digits of the year. Was no problem because computer was invented around 1940. The first computer from ENIAC or the ANIBAC or whatever the any something is engineering, whatever electric, whatever. Then the personal computer was popular, as I mentioned, it's the 1980 or 1990, especially 1990, and the 2000. They realized that the year changed. So 00 means 1900 or the 2000. So, but it was kind of fake. So, company actually the old customer, it should be the disaster. Like who knows, the nuclear power plant will be exploded because of this. And all traffic signal will be stopped because of this. But nothing happened. So I spent almost a year to change all the year format from YY to YYYY. But nothing happened. So, but it was good experience to realize the importance of data structure. So we will talk about such a thing in other classes. But anyway, 2000, a lot thing happened. So in IT and computer science, so also .com company. So the bubble is gone. So we said that at the time many small companies actually is founded and make the website and the IT company. Some of them still exist, they're successful, but a lot of them is gone because of the .com bubble. So it's gone. But in the IT industry, so we have the more and more the computer environment. So we have focused on the interfaces. So people realize that how can we make such a more convenient the user interface for the user of computer. So at the time we had a PDA, personal device. I'm not very good at such an abbreviation. And many things happened. Eventually that brought up Apple product. So Apple product. Think about the Apple product. So today use the very high-end new technology for the CPU and such a no. So usually it's the one step behind of the. If you compare the Galaxy and the iPhone, so their specification, Apple specification, a little bit behind the Galaxy. However, the people they don't care the difference between such a computational power. Instead, they try to use the more convenient or the fancy interface. So like the whether device is like the square or round, still far. I'm not sure whether it's solved, but Galaxy, the Samsung actually mimic such a design. So it's a huge lawsuit between the Apple and the Samsung. But I believe that's important, and also the industry and the computer. Then after the 2010, drastically increased the size of data. So So that is the main. So everything, right? Even though we go back to the early stage of the computer science, computer history, like the 1940, so always we are fighting with what? Data. The computer. It's time to talk about what is a computer. What do you think? What is a computer? Think about how many computer devices do you have in your room? Nothing. Whether one of you realize that I surprised it. From time to time, I need to reset the home router. Otherwise, it's usually 2 or 3 weeks later, the speed is dropped down. So I need to start up. Then when I check the number of devices connected, it's really crazy, 70. Then when I check it, yes, it is true. Like today's we have due to the IoT, Internet of Things, so more and more even the bulb has IP address. And connect to the cell phone and so on. We have the more and more such a computer devices. What is a computer, by the way? What is a teacher? A person who teaches. Computer?
Thing that computes.
A person who computes, but it's not person. It's a
Thing.
device, especially electronic device. Because if you know the long history of the computing device, computer science, the first computer was not electronic device. Is it abacus? Have you ever used the abacus? Like this one? And there is this is stone or the bead, like that. Okay, so it looks like the 5-digit calculator. Believe it or not, I learned in the math class when I was in the elementary school. So a long time ago. Just like the nowadays the kids learn the computer, at the time we learned this one. For this, I really hate that. But that is really old. If we just define the computer as things that can compute, okay, and we try to compute very fast. Then with the power of the electrical. So we consider computer as an electrical device that can compute. Compute what? Just a number? It was number first time, but eventually it is data. What is the difference in data used in the computer versus something I can compute, I can process, but do I compute the data? Do I process such a data? My brain? This may be different. Okay? So that difference actually create a lot of computer sciences subject. So this computer can process only structured data. We have an agreement, like the computer, unfortunately, no matter what type of computer you use, it can process only 0 or 1. This is a word. If you turn on, this is 1, and turn off, this is 0. Our computer device started from this word. Okay? So if we have a word, okay, we can represent how many different numbers?
16.
To the power of 8. If you can understand this one, please look back your elementary textbook. So we can represent 2 to the power of. So we can represent certain number. Not only number, if we agree 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 is 8, then it's 8. Okay? So 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. This is not true. If you want to really true the structure, take a look at ASCII code. Okay? ASCII code is a standard. For the such a thing. Then we can represent even letter, character. Then symbol, and we had the number and the character and the lower letter, upper letter, And the symbol, we cannot put them using this 0, 1, which means we need to make the structure. So computer can process such a structured data. So throughout the semester, I'm going to focus on the importance of such a data structure. Everything is a data structure. Then, go back to this story. We have very nice such a hardware computer. Then we have, I mentioned about the importance of the user. So user would like to use this computer for the computing, very fast processing. For what? Such a formatted, structured data. Then, how? Can I use so after I turn off this one, somebody gave me the very nice small computer that is a cell phone. Then I'd like to compute, I'd like to process such a structured data. Can I use? Without turning on. So I cannot use that. So what happened when I turn on my computer to use the computer to process data? What happened? That's the reason why we need operating system. So operating system is the kind of in between user and the hardware. Hardware without even the power, there's nothing going on. Okay? There's nothing going on. We need to do something with such a very powerful hardware, but it's nothing but the hardware. So who is in charge of such the bridging the gap between the hardware and user? That is the operating system. So operating system OS is hardware. No, is purely software. Okay, which means you can develop your. Believe it or not, the operating system nowadays, many of the operating system is coded by C++. 80%, 70 to 80% C++. The other is assembly language. So if you already took the microcontroller, it's 268, 267 undergraduate microcontroller. So that's I think in that class you learned about such a assembly language to control the CPU. Then we can add up the program that makes the user convenient to use such a, or also fully use the power of hardware. Okay, that is the operating system. So somebody says this operating system is 100% just the software. Any software running on any kind of computer stuff. Think about this. What I'm using. It's Android. Android is operating system. What about the iPhone? You use iPhone? It's iOS. iOS is the operating system. What about the MacBook? MacBook? It's a Mac OS. What is the current version? The name of the Mac OS? I'm not using the Mac OS. High Sierra. So it's every time changing. But that is also operating system which is based on BSD Linux system. If you are familiar with the Linux system, many of my friends who learned the computer long time before actually really hate the Windows style, the operating system. We will see such a difference in the next class. Then one of the main reason is actually, believe it or not, when the Bill Gates developed the Windows, the early version of Windows, there were two operating systems inside. One is MS-DOS. Actually, starting from the DOS, anyone who learned MS-DOS, I did. Oh, really? Which means that you are quite old. So when I learned the computer first time, so I learned how to copy, C-O-P-Y, and the source and destination. That's what I learned when I learned the operating system. Because that's the, not command, that's the process. We will see what is the different command line, CMD and MS-DOS later. So MS-DOS was the portable, the operating system. Then Bill Gates realized this is good, but not very good for the interface. So he think about the Windows for the main interface. Everything is Windows is such a rectangular shape. Then the graphic. Then we put instead of the file name, we put something icon. Then what if we just select? That means click. Okay, that is the interface. Then he make his own Windows, which means in addition to the MS-DOS window or MS-DOS the operating system, another the operating system, the Windows. One umbrella, two houses. What if there were two kings in the same country? Even sometimes the dictators killed all their relatives, even brother and the father, because otherwise it will always fight. Same problem in computer. This is really bad architecture. Two operating systems under the one umbrella, under the same roof. So because of that, it's always the problem. Later, Windows 95 still, two operating system from I think the Windows 98. What was the name? I forgot. So they end of the 1990, they throw away MS-DOS. But recently, the Windows actually bring back Bash shell. We will see what is a shell. The Bash shell as a part of Windows. Why is it important? We will see. Why the shell is important in the operating system. Then those who are familiar with such an interface like a shell, start actually the Mac OS. As a part of their kernel, they use the BSD, which is a Linux kernel, still used in the Mac OS. That is the reason many of the old-fashioned, old guys, they just use, instead of using the graphical user interface Aqua, they mostly use terminal. Right? You have seen a lot of such the professional developer or the administrator who use a MacBook because that is the very similar. So that is another. In Windows we have the Mac OS, we have and the Unix and the Linux style. It's a command line interface, the operating system. We will learn such a thing. Also the beginning of the semester. Then, to fully understand what is the operating system, okay? Then, to understand such a main part of operating system, we better know a little bit more about the computer. This one. Also, we should know what the user wants, but that's not part of this class. But this is still important, like the human-computer interaction. It's called HCI. It's the very important area of computer science, the research. So it's kind of they learn. Like just think about this. It's small. It's portable. The problem interface. Okay, we cannot hold the keyboard. We cannot hold the mouse. There is no benefit. Instead, they think about the touch. So touch is a new, such an interface method. It's a HCI, research on such a new interface, like a hologram, like and also untouched, the touchless, the interface. Okay, I still feel the pain, the tip of the finger, because you know how the touch screen is working? Have you ever thought about it? Please, you should. As the computer science student, there is a grid, and simply like the electric. Then if you touch, then sensor 0 or 1, then you can recognize the location then, which means sometimes you can. So think about if I touch this one, because there's no electricity, but some of the glove can do, because it's based on the electricity sensor, touch sensor. Okay, most of the sensor they output of the such a sensor is a voltage, 0 or 1. It's not like this. I'm not very good at the engineering part, so but also very important to understand computer engineering part. Electronic signal will be generated. Then if we can make the 0 or 1 as the output, we can do whatever we want. Because it's a data, structured data, 0 or 1. Okay? So this one gets such a thing. But sometimes I can feel the pain, the tip of so I can use this finger, this finger. What if the touchless? Then also it's a very limited, even though the iPhone, they release the bigger size of the screen. It's much smaller than what we can feel here. It's not realistic, okay? And also our human eye is mostly recognize the object as a 3D, but this is a 2D. Even though we watch the 3D movie, it's not realistic. So, for example, the Microsoft focused on the hologram, okay, as a kind. That will be discussed in the user side, the HCI. But we will focus on throughout the semester this computer. To do that, we need to understand what is a computer. So, computer is a thing that can compute. What are the main components of computer?
CPU.
CPU. Why? Because it's computing. So, central processing
unit.
P means it's a processing compute. This one U is a unit, it's a circuit, electrical circuit. And C is the main thing. So, name implies, name of the CPU implies everything. Okay. Then, my daughter, she is going to college and major in the computer science also. No freshman here, but she's going to freshman. When she was 5 years old, I think before the kindergarten. So I think at that time, one day, she asked me, "Do you know what is a CPU?" She learned it in her class, then preschool. So I asked back, what do you think? So she said, it's the most important thing, like the brain of a human being. It's the same thing. I like that definition. It's everything of computer. It's the most important part. Because of that, you probably took the microcontroller class or such a related class. That's very important to understand computer architecture. Before you take the computer architecture operating system, you better know such a thing. We are not going to discuss the details of it, but the CPU is a chip, and that has also storage, that has a cache area, so everything. But who determines such a processing? It's not Microsoft. It's not the Apple. It's the manufacturer of this chip, okay, by using instruction. So instruction is a kind of built-in command, okay, operation, when that chip was designed and produced. So, for example, add. So I try to add up. So if you see the binary number, a lot of time we add up such a number or the sum. So add is the operation two values. So for example, if I add 1 plus 1, 1 is in somewhere in your storage in the CPU. That is called the register. And another number is here. So plus is already defined. The design in this chip, then we can do the instruction. So this will be added up and stored at another storage. Then this is how it works in the CPU. This is one operation, okay? And this kind of operation will be processed sometimes one cycle, sometimes 2 cycles. If the computation is simple, the 1 cycle, sometimes 2 cycles. If you take a look at I don't think you have seen such a detail, the information about your hardware, but if you carefully read, so they have the average number of cycle per instruction. That's also very important. Even though you have the 2.0 gigahertz, but average is 4. You can only process divided by 4 number of instructions. But even though you have the 1.5, but its average is 2, your processing will be faster. You understand? So this is called the CPU cycle. So computer system does not have the human nature, the time line. Instead, it has only the tick, 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 determined by the cycle. So sometimes you can see the 3.6 gigahertz. What does that mean? 3.6 gigahertz. The higher the better. Right? Yeah, that's true. That is actually it's a CPU time the cycle. So for each cycle, it can process one instruction, or sometimes 2 cycles process one instruction, and so on. So then, this is the CPU. Unfortunately, CPU, even though CPU has the storage, how big? It's really big? No? It's called the register. It's very, very limited. Okay. Even though you can design huge register, however, you cannot get the full benefit of the processing. It will be more complicated, complex, will be higher and higher. So it's a very limited storage. So where can the CPU get the data to overcome such a small storage? So to address that one, we have memory, RAM. We need random access memory, not ROM. It's random access memory. Okay. Then what is the memory? It's the primary storage for CPU. Sometimes students got confused. Primary storage is the hard disk drive or the SD card. No. RAM is your primary storage in terms of what? CPU. If the memory is not big enough, then we need secondary storage. That is usually SSD or the hard disk drive. They still competing. Cheaper, but faster. So we believed several years ago, all the hard disk drive, all the secondary storage will be SSD. It's not true. Still hard disk drive is because it's getting faster and cheaper. Because it's anyway secondary storage, not this one. Most of the time this determines the speed. Okay? So, by the way, what is the memory? How can you define what is a memory? Somebody said it's like the classroom. It's just nothing but address, set of address. So if you take a look at there's the history of computer science. History of the computer science again. If you see the old style memory, it's like the phone. You know the music box? Have you ever heard the music box is counting and there's something? Then it's great. It's not actually. I don't believe that is a beautiful sound, but anyway, it's a great sound. Okay, it's by turning. So this one, then there's like the C, D, E, F, G, for example. Then there's like this. Then they touch and create the sound. Very similarly, so if we have this one is 1 and nothing 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. We can represent the data that we have discussed. 0 or 1. So this is the old style memory. Similarly, in the memory, we can have the electric line and send the signal. If yes, it's 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. So then give the address. 8-bit, 16-bit, what time is it? It's already passed. You should let me know. Okay, 2 minutes. So this is the memory. Okay. Then we can bring the data into the register process, output going back to here. So this should be very fast. So this one is called source. If the data is not big enough in the memory, we need to have the secondary storage. Okay? So three main parts of the computer: CPU, memory, and other I/O devices, plus this one, like the mouse and many other things. So our operating system, basically we discuss about this first time. Then second part, this memory, and this one third. But there will be switch order. This one first, then the memory last. Mostly this CPU, we are not going to deal with the hardware. Instead, who is in charge of such a processing in terms of software? That will be process. So process management is the most important part. To understand what is a batch, why the Bill Gates give up those, then going back to the batch, we need to understand what is a process. Then there's storage, two different types of storage. So that is the overall things that we are going to discuss today. This semester. Okay. So today's done. The next class we will start to talk about the process management. Any questions?
Do you mind if we like bring our laptops in to watch like the?
I will explain. But the next class you don't have to. But for the exercise lab, so we are going. At least you should be able to access the internet. So you should bring the laptop. Anyone who do not have the laptop, personally contact me. I can buy it for you. But we will find it. But I believe the whole students who are taking this class have. So, but next class you don't have to. But after that you will. Thanks so much. We will see you the next class.